All right, it's time to look at the papers this morning, see what the headlines are across newspapers in Nigeria. And we'll be expecting our guest to join us shortly. But let's take a look. Let's see what the headlines are so you get familiar with some of the stories this morning. We'll begin with the Blueprint newspaper. Blueprint says, eased lockdown amid rising cases. Jubilant Nigerians troop out. Experts caution on second outbreak. You see all that on the front page of the Blueprint newspaper. Now from there, Daily Times is next, and it says, as government offices, economy open today, what Nigerians must do to avoid COVID-19 spread. All right, that's Daily Trust. Then Daily Times says CBN Bankers Committee shelve workers layoff. You find all that on the front page of the Daily Times. Then from Daily Times, we'll go to Leadership newspaper. The Leadership newspaper is on coronavirus, and it says Aso Villa officials, others at Kerry's burial test negative. Okay, that's Leadership there. And then News Direct says COVID-19 reduce interest rates, increase external borrowing. Tinubu tells federal government and the Central Bank of Nigeria. Certainly, government, like the vice president who chairs the Economic Council they've been holding meetings in the last weeks on way forward to sustain the economy. All right, now if you look at the story on the front page of the Blueprint newspaper, it says eased lockdown amid rising cases. Jubilant Nigerians troop out, experts caution on second outbreak. That's what you see on the front page of the Blueprint. Now today, which is Monday the 4th, the president had issued out the notice to relax the lockdown in these states, in Lagos and Abuja, as well as Ogun, briefly, and certainly we'll see a lot of Nigerians going out. Now we'll come to that shortly, but let's join our reporter on the streets. Sarah Yeku is around Berger this morning, and let's see how Nigerians are reacting and who is on the streets and how they are. Sarah, it's good to have you join me this morning. Can you bring us up to speed? There were lots of jubilation on the resumption today and a lot of enthusiasm. Talk to us about what you are seeing.
Although a lot of persons are happy to be out after 5 weeks for residents in Lagos and for residents in Ogun that are working in Lagos, 4 weeks for them, they're happy to be out on the streets. Of course, a lot of them who are in the informal sector, who earn a living on a daily basis, they're happy just to be out to go about and earn some money to feed their families. So where I am right now, I'm at the Berger checkpoint, which is one of the busiest entry points into Lagos and out of Lagos. And so what we see right now is we've not seen the police mount their security posts or their checkpoints. As at now, this is some minutes before 8, and so they're not here yet. Probably before, maybe sometime later, they'll be able to, of course, ban, of course, check people that are on essential duty. Because you know that this particular ease of lockdown, it's a gradual process. It's not supposed to be automatic. We're not supposed to have so many people on the streets because some persons are supposed to come out on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and thereabouts. So there's supposed to be a ban on state travels. This place is supposed to be locked down. We're supposed to see like traffic on the road, so we are supposed to see security men checking people that will be coming into Lagos or going out of Lagos, but we've not seen that this morning. And of course, people are just going and coming, and there are fears that there could be a spike, an increase in the number of confirmed cases of coronavirus.
All right, well, let's leave it here now and stay safe where you are, Sarah. Thank you so much, our reporter. Now let's get back to the paper review we were doing earlier on. I have with me on Skype right now Dotun Ojon standing by to take us through some of the stories that we're looking at. Dotun, good morning. It's good to have you join me now.
Good morning, Mike.
Great.
Happy Monday.
Yeah, happy Monday. I will say we're being cautious, but it's good to be happy anyway. Some of the stories here are quite interesting. One of them we're looking at is a story on the front page of the Blueprint newspaper that says eased lockdown amid rising cases. Jubilant Nigerians troop out, and experts caution on second wave of outbreak. Now, Today is a different day in Lagos. In fact, I was driving to the office this morning and the number of cars on the road is like any other day that before COVID-19. Now, I wonder what you're seeing, because experts are saying that it's quite really early to ease the lockdown.
Okay, what we have now, Mike, is not a total ease of the lockdown. It's actually a partial ease, and I'm part of those people who actually advocated for the need for us not to permanently lock down our economy. Because if you look at it, it's going to be irresponsible of anyone to think that Nigerians are not responsible enough to actually take care of themselves. We are people that I think are used to responsibility. So when it comes to life and death, we want to stay alive. We want to also, in the midst of that, we want to actually have our livelihood. So I am hopeful, and I sure do know that Nigerians, we are able to take care of ourselves. It's hypocritical when you say that if Nigerians go out, they will not cover their nose, or you believe that they will not be able to take those basic information that have been passed to them seriously. Because these are the same set of people that have all their life, they've known responsibility. From creating electricity for themselves is one kind of responsibility. From transporting themselves from one point to the other is one point of responsibility. In fact, half of the duties of government have been taken over by the Nigerian people. That's some sign of responsibility. It shows that when they get out there, I was outside yesterday to actually monitor, despite the fact that yesterday was Sunday, you see that majority of the people I saw in my area here were actually using the nose mask. It shows that the people are actually, if you allow them to lead the kind of life they want to lead, it shows that they are responsible. And let me also remind you that any obedience that is got through installation of fear, it's going to be a temporary obedience. But this one is leaving Nigerians to giving them information and allowing them to do things the right way. I think it's right.
Yeah, Doctor, but the point there is, it is one thing to use nose mask. It's another thing because using nose mask or face mask is just one of the recommendation. Social distancing is another one. Now, the point there is, besides the use of nose mask, if everyone decides to start using nose mask from what we see, which is a good one, but how about social distancing? Because from some of the videos that we see, even from Lagos and parts of Kano and parts of other parts of the country, we see that Nigerians are not necessarily responsible in that regard. What do you say?
We need to create the atmosphere, and that's very important. Let me cite the example of Lagos. If you look at the Blue BRT in Lagos, if you enter the Blue BRT, it's been marked. This is the place that we want people to sit. This is the place we do not want people to sit. So it is the duty of government to actually create an avenue for that to be obeyed, including organizations. There must be monitoring. If you say, oh, we must maintain social distance, there must be, number one, monitoring. There must be enforcement. Unfortunately, every opportunity that the federal government of Nigeria had to prove to the people the seriousness of what he's saying, the federal government mismanaged it. And I'm citing an example of the burial of the former chief of staff, for example. But we accept the fact that the Nigerian government has come out to say we are sorry, which is very rare in leadership in this kind of the world. So we have taken the apology. But I'm saying that every opportunity that we have had as a federal government or as a government of the federation to communicate to the people what we actually meant by social distancing, we had failed in that regard. But again, we must continue to show the people how to live. I said it that the major problem of leadership in Africa, it starts from our home, is the problem of directive. Leaders like to give directives as against direction. We must give direction as to this is how we want this to be done. And we know that this is a lifestyle that is strange to people. So we must continue to communicate. We must continue to come across to people as a government that is very serious. So on the issue of social distancing, I know that the Nigerians that I've seen that have agreed.
All right, Doctor, let me put you on hold. Doctor, let me put you on hold, sorry. Let me cross to Abuja, where my colleague Habida Lawal is standing by to bring us up to speed. Let us understand, let's feel the pulse in Abuja. Habida, it's good to have you. It's good to see you, really. Can you let us know, we understand Nigerians are very happy to go out today, but what are you seeing on the streets?
While driving through the city center to one of supposedly major checkpoints here in Abuja, the major checkpoints are not manned here in the Federal Capital Territory. There's no presence of security, and people are going about their daily activities easily as if nothing is even happening. Everybody seems to have gone back to the full whirlwind of going back and resuming back to work. As you can see behind me, there's so much vehicles coming into the city center. This is Lugbe axis, one of the entry points into the Abuja metropolis itself. But the fact that the guidelines set by the FCTA administration for people resuming work today, especially for some certain set of people, has been ignored. We saw some commercial vehicles carrying more than 3-4 passengers. We saw some people without their nose mask. There is no regard for social distancing, and there seems to be a full whirlwind of people going back to work.
All right, now Habida, before now, because Nigerians, a lot of Nigerians, from when we spoke to them, some were confused as to who is supposed to resume today, who is not supposed to resume today. From within the Abuja metropolis, were there any enlightenment program to make Nigerians or residents of Abuja understand who should resume and who should not resume?
Well, from the press statement made available to us as of yesterday, the FCT administration did not made an enlightenment or awareness for the public on who and who are exempted from resumption and who is to resume. But this press statement reads that there will be curfew from 8 p.m. every day to 6 a.m. in the morning, and also civil servants from level 14 are to resume at work from 8 a.m. and close by 2 p.m. and also some major public places where they provide essential services are also to resume within the stipulated time, except for pharmacies as well.
All right. Thank you very much, Habida Lawal, our reporter from Abuja, bringing us up to speed with developments there. Let's get back to Dotun Ojon, who has been talking to us on the paper review. Now, Dotun, one issue that people are skeptical of, very concerned about, is the fact that the lockdown, on one hand, the hard decision of keeping people at home, and for those who are hungry and all of that, we understand that mix. But a lot of people are now saying, experts are saying, that what Nigeria has achieved over the time from the lockdown will be thrown away just by the few days of the easing of the lockdown. What do you say? Oh, Dotun, I lost the signal there from Dotun. All right, let's go on a break and then we get ahead with TVC Breakfast. Let's get to the papers now, see what the headlines are this morning. And I have with me on Skype to do justice to the headlines, Dotun Ojon, communication and leadership strategist. Dotun, it's good to have you join me this morning.
Good morning, Mike. It's good
Great.
to be here.
Now, let's run through this now. Let me begin with the Blueprint newspaper. And it says, eased lockdown amid rising cases. Jubilant Nigerians troop out and experts caution on second outbreak. You see that on the front page of the Blueprint. A decision ill-timed. Medical workers, others warn. COVID-19 cases stand at 2,388 with deaths at 85. That's what you see on the Blueprint. Now, let's move to the Daily Trust. Daily Trust, as government offices, economy open today, what Nigerians must do to avoid COVID-19 spread. Federal government states should provide free face masks and sanitizers. Don't rush to the streets. Experts are saying this. Actions key to survival. Doctors are saying that. And PDP caucus wants lockdown extended. You find all that on the front page of the Daily Trust. Now, Daily Times is next. Daily Times is what we see next. CBN Bankers Committee shelve workers layoff. All right. That is a story I certainly know my guests would like to talk about. Now, from there, let's go to Leadership newspaper. Leadership is on coronavirus. Aso Villa officials, others at Kerry's burial test negative. mixed feelings as work resumes today in many parts of the country, especially in Lagos and the FCT, and certainly has several other riders there. From there, let's go to the News Direct. News Direct is the next one we're looking at right now. COVID-19 is the center point here. Reduce interest rates, increase external borrowing. Tinubu tells federal government and the Central Bank of Nigeria. All right, that's the headline on the News Direct. Okay, let's get to Dotun. Let me bring you in now to see the story on the front page of the Daily Times. The story on the Daily Times is on, it says CBN Bankers Committee shelve workers layoff. In the last few days, there has been viral videos, and also, in fact, social media has been agog with reactions on a certain bank that laid off a lady who was pregnant, and that led to complications and all of that. I guess maybe you have heard that. But all of this now a reaction from people, and we hear that the central bank has met with the bankers committee and are deciding that there shouldn't be the layoff or laying off of staff for now. Now, it's a difficult balance, if you ask me one way or the other, when it comes to the issue of the economy and the banks being able to sustain, and the realities of the fact that if the banks have this challenge with sustaining and continuing, then how much more the people, because the banks have more muscle than the individuals. What do you say?
Okay, first, I think we should be very clear as to the state of majority of the banks in Nigeria. First, they are not, majority of them are not as good as we see them when it comes to their financial strength. No doubt about the fact that the recapitalization exercise of the federal government or the CBN that time had actually made banks stronger, but they are not, majority of them are not as strong as we see them. Having said that, Mike, this has always been my worry. A lot of people were concerned about, okay, how many deaths we have recovered, the number of deaths. They are concerned about the fact that a lot of people are actually being tested positive for coronavirus. But I had repeatedly said that coronavirus does not have drug. The only drug it has is perhaps trying to boost the immune system of the people, which the government has said is doing. But most importantly, we must be able to realize the fact that majority of Nigerians are, number one, are going to stay without job just immediately after COVID-19. Majority of the people are not going to have a means of livelihood. And that means that those people that are not going to be losing their life, those people that are not going to be losing their job, will be losing their businesses. So it's a big thing. Have you come to ask yourself that we do not have shock absorber? Our economy does not have. As prevalent as this case is in the US, you haven't heard about the case of the dollar falling against the naira. But what you have heard over time is that the naira continuously falls against every currency across the globe, including the ones in Africa. It shows that over time, we have not translated the prosperity of the nation to solid economic plan for the future. And that worries me a lot. So we are seeing the banks today because easily the bank is on the news. But there are thousands of other employees that would not return to the office. I'm going to cite two examples of people that are very close to me. One works in the hospital. They told them that, see, the first 15 days of last month, they divided them into two. The first set of people worked from the 1st to on the 15th. The second set of people worked from the 15th to the 30th. And that meant a cut in salary. Now they are resuming the new month of May. They called everybody and said, okay, we do not have the intention to lay people off, but you should be ready to take half of your salary. Mike, this is happening all over the places. And considering the fact that our reported unemployment rate is somewhere around 26%, while the reality is somewhere around 60%. If you compare the reality of our unemployment with the reality of what the Nigerian people will face after COVID-19, you will know that we are not only dancing around the zone of recession, we may actually enter a season, a serious one of depression, which I think we must, every amount of money that comes into the federal government, we must express our ingenuity in deploying them at this point in time.
All right. The governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, was talking about the issue of data, that one thing he has learned from this whole pandemic is the issue of the need for data, for proper planning and all of that. Now, when you look at the scenario, the economic scenario where inadequate data and then when it comes to the informal sector, because the banks are a little structured when it comes to that, whether they are standing on their foot very well or not, but they are a little more structured, so you can keep tab on all of those. Now, for those that are not as structured, the informal sector that form the mass of the economic activity in Nigeria, they are certainly going to feel the brunt even the more. And when we don't have these data, I wonder how much more impact this is going to have going forward.
I'm a little bit surprised that the governor of Lagos State is of course, it happens everywhere, but Lagos actually set an example of wanting to collect data through the residency card, and I've talked about some other states that did same. But again, I thank my stars that at this point in time, that COVID-19 is telling us the most important thing. Mike, you will not know how tragic it is until there's an argument as to the population figure of your nation. People are arguing. People are saying it's 200 million. One will say it's 199 million. And you continue to argue. You may not know the importance of that argument until you put yourself in that one figure that is not captured in the plan of government. So if it happens that we are a little above 200 million and my name is not known to the government, that means that government does not know that I exist. Everything I do to government, I do not exist. So how do you want such government to plan for me? I think from now, we must realize the fact, if there's anything that COVID-19 will teach us, we must realize the fact that without planning, we cannot have progress. Even if you continue to tell it that I built road, once you don't know, you don't have an average number of people that apply one particular road, you are just building it in vain. Because if you have an idea of the number of people plying a road, for example, then you'll be able to know the lifespan of the road. You know that within 3 years, with this traffic, this thing has to be reworked on. But if you don't have an idea of all of this, then I think you are just walking a bit. So it has taught us, like you said, the formal sector, what is the percentage? If you want to know the percentage of people in the formal sector in Lagos, just drive on a Thursday morning. You drive on a Thursday morning and every road is clear. Why? Because there's environmental on Thursday morning and they close down the market. And I can authoritatively tell you that with what I see every Thursday morning, that I can tell you that 60% of people or more in Lagos do not even belong to any of these formal sectors. It shows that we have a huge chunk of people to deal with. The BRT drivers, the bus conductors, the Iyaloja under the bridge in Mile 12, those selling boldly. Unfortunately, because these people, you just look at their trade, you are not taking them as important as they can be. But if you check the website of the NBS today, the Nigeria Bureau of Statistics, you will be wowed with the percentage of economic activity that these people contribute to the nation's economy. So it's high time we began to see data as it is. It is important. Without it, you cannot achieve any meaningful development, except if we want to stay on the lane of keeping to plain politics. But if you want to have real achievement, I think data is very important. And like I often say, if the continuous insincerity of government usually builds communal inhumanity of the people. That's why you see when people die, people are rejoicing because they are in government. It's because government has not planned and executed its plan well enough for the people. Data is at the center of anything any government will do across the globe. And I think without it, we may not be able to move past the level where we are in now.
All right. Now, before I let you go, the Central Bank of Nigeria had injected several trillions of naira in the past month up until now as a way of helping to sustain the economy. I wonder how much that will go when it comes to keeping businesses afloat. Now, some economic experts have even said, worst case scenario, government should print more money so they can, keep injecting into the system. But others are saying if you do that, certainly the issue of inflation is also there. So how challenging are these things when it comes to ensuring that the economy moves forward after the pandemic?
I think the fear of inflation has actually deprived us of so many good ideas. One of them is that for now, I'm not even an advocate of people, I'm not an advocate for printing more money. I'm an advocate of actually making more allocation, releasing more allocation to people living under the poverty line. And I've repeatedly said this, that this is a major cure to poverty in Africa. If you study the model of Africa, Africa is a very prosperous continent. Nigeria, all the resources we have, no other country in the world has what we have. But what is the problem? You continue to build 10% everywhere in the world. In fact, the world economy, you always have the 10% of people that controls the economy. They are everywhere. But when you continue to empower the 10% of the people at the expense of the other 90%, then there's going to be an issue. The duty of government here is not to destroy the ruling class, the 10% people who control the economy. The duty of government is not to destroy it, but the duty of government is to ensure that from the pocket of the 10% of people that control the economy, that there are enough filtration that can
to ensure it trickles down. Exactly. Well, we have to leave you here now. Thank you so much, Dotun Ojon, for your time on the program. Really appreciate it.